Hello everyone, welcome to the session. In this session, we'll discuss about multi-threading concept of Java programming. So let's see what is multi-threading. So before going in detail, let's first of all know what is a thread, then we'll see what is a multitasking, and then we'll learn about multi-threading, sorry. So let's see what is a thread actually. So in operating system, we have learned that process is nothing but a program under execution, and it is heavyweight. Now, thread is a lightweight sub-process, which will do some separate path of execution. We can say that the smallest unit of execution is thread, and it is defined like it is a single sequential flow of control within a program. So this is the smallest unit of program which is running is called as thread. Now, why threads are used means threads are actually designed to carry out a task separately. So when you're executing threads compared to processes, your effort and time cost, everything will be less for threads. Now we'll compare that also. Now let's see the next one. We are seeing multitasking. So multitasking, as we all know, is nothing but doing multiple tasks at the same time. So in that, we'll just see how multitasking is achieved. So multitasking is actually achieved through two ways, through two steps. One is multi-processing, another one is multi-threading. Both are used to achieve the multitasking. So why actually we are preferring multitasking means multitasking is basically used to properly utilize the CPU. That is, if you do multiple tasks at the same time, you're making the CPU busy instead of being idle. So how you'll do that means we have two ways. One is multi-processing and multi-threading. So multi-processing means in the name itself it is there, we can guess that multiple processes are executing simultaneously, and the other one is multi-threading, that is multiple threads are executing simultaneously. So let's see how it is achieved. So as I told, multiple processing and multiple threading. So multiple process means this enables a system to execute two or more programs concurrently, and multi-threading means this enables a program to carry out two or more tasks in the form of threads simultaneously. Now let's see in detail the comparison between process-based multitasking and thread-based multitasking. So we, in short, we call process-based multitasking as multiprocessing, and this as multi-threading. Now, if you'll compare these two, let's see which one is better. Now, multi-processing means in this multi-processing, what is happening means each process is has its own address in the memory, and it should be allocated a separate memory area. Whereas if you'll see multi-threading, threads doesn't need any separate area here, separate memory space area. They just share the same address space of a particular parent thread or parent process. Now here a process is called as heavyweight, whereas thread is called as lightweight. Next, the cost of communication between processes is high, whereas the cost of communication between thread is low, and switching from one process to another requires some time for saving and loading registers and memory maps, updating lists, etc. So we have like an operating system, I've discussed in one video about context switching, where it shows that when CPU is switching from one process to another process, the first process which is releasing the CPU should actually save its status in some set of registers. That is, it is saving and loading the data in the register, so that it will be easy for it to resume back from the point of um, execution where it has left earlier. Now the next thing is for threads, this context switching is actually taking less efforts when compared to process context switching. So on the whole, if you'll compare these two, that is multi-processing and multi-threading is preferable because of all these advantages, that it is lightweight, it shares the same address space, and cost of communication is less, and also the cost of context switching is also less. So that's why we'll prefer multi-threading, and that's why we are learning about multi-threading in this session. So let's see in detail. First, we are going to learn about life cycle of a thread. So let's see what is the life cycle of a thread. So life cycle of a thread indicates the different states of a thread which it undergoes. So basically, the thread may be in any of these five states. It will be new state, runnable, running, non-runnable, which is also called as blocked, and the last one is terminated. Now let's see what are all these five in detail. Now first is new state, means whenever a thread is created in the beginning, it will be in this state called as new state. Now after the thread is created, it will be going to the runnable state where it will be ready to execute, but it is waiting for the dispatcher to schedule. So that is runnable. And the next one is running means here it got the schedule and it is executing with the cpu, that is in running state. And if you'll observe from running state, while it is executing, in between some interrupt may happen or it may go for an event to happen. In that case, it will stop from running and it will go to a waiting state, that is called as non-runnable, also called as blocked state. So it will go to the waiting state here. Now it will wait here until its task is done. Once it is done, again it will go to the ready state, which is there in runnable state actually. So it will wait until it gets it gets scheduled by the dispatcher. Now after getting dispatched, it will come to the running state. Now so imagine that it has successfully executed, then it will go to the last state called as terminated. So these are the five states that we have in a thread. So same actually similar states we have will be seeing in process in operating system. So let's see what are these. So as I told, these are the different five states. Mm, which shows the status of thread at any point of time. The next thing is we have to know when actually a thread moves from one state to another state. Means by what method or by what action it is moving from one state to another state. So that we'll be seeing in this next thing. Just here, the thread is in new state if you create an instance of thread class, but before the invocation of start method. So you'll be creating a thread and you'll be in this state. If you invoke a start method, then you'll go to the next state called as runnable. So see here, the thread is in runnable state after invocation of start method, but the thread scheduler has not selected it for running thread, so it is waiting for the scheduler. Next is running. The thread is in running state if the thread scheduler has selected yes. Next is non-runnable, that is blocked state. This is a state when the thread is still alive but is currently not eligible to run because it is waiting for some event to happen. Next is terminated. A thread is in terminated or dead state when its run method exits. So these are the five states. Now we have seen some methods like start. So we'll see in detail what are the different methods are available in a particular class. So for a particular thread class. So we have seen what is a thread. Now to implement this thread class, we'll be using some methods. Now let's see what are the commonly used methods of thread class. So to execute or to implement this thread class, we'll use some set of methods. Now let's see few of them. The first one is run method. Let's see first start method. So we have seen just now start method. When a thread is created, after the start method is called, it will be sent to the runnable state. So it means that start is a method which shows that the thread is ready to execute. So starts the execution of thread, and JVM calls the run method on the thread. So always we have to remember that when a thread is created here, it will be here. When a start method is called, it will go to the runnable state. And we should remember one thing: when a start method is called, in it directly calls the run method also. Means we may not call the run method explicitly, but if you'll call start method, it will default by default it will call the run method, so which will make the thread to execute. Just see the first one. Run method is used to perform action for a thread. Next is sleep. So what is sleep? it causes a thread executing thread to sleep. It means that imagine that your thread is running, and if you want your thread to stop for some milliseconds, then you can make it by the help of this method called sleep. So it is actually allowing your thread to stop for some milliseconds, so you're making it to sleep instead of execution. So this is one thread. And the next one is called as join. What is join? Join is basically used for synchronization. So here the meaning is wait for the thread to die. Imagine, I'll just give one example. Imagine that you have two threads. The first thread is generating alphabets, the second thread is generating numbers. Now if I'll run two threads simultaneously, what will happen means one alphabet and one number will come in the output simultaneously. So one alphabet, then alphabet and number likewise. But I want all the alphabets at one place followed by all the numbers. Then in that case, you have to synchronize those two threads. To synchronize, what you have to do is after the first thread, you just call join method. So what it will do is, once the first thread prints all the alphabets, then only it will start the second thread. So it is waiting for the thread to die, means it is waiting for the first thread to die, and then it will start the second thread likewise. So that is the use of join. So join is basically used to provide the synchronization. Next is join with some milliseconds. So you are asking it to wait some milliseconds instead of waiting for the thread to uh, like uh, uh, to die. Here you are just waiting for a thread to die for some specified milliseconds. So you are asking it to wait for some milliseconds kind of thing. Next is get priority. So every thread when it is created, it will have by default few properties. That is, it will have a name, it will have an identifier, and it will have a priority. So we should remember these three. So when a thread is created, it will have by default a name, and the name is thread 0. So if you have second thread, it is thread 1, and so on. So thread, and by default thread name will be there, names will be thread 0, thread 1, and so on. And it will also have an identifier. By default the identifier will be 8, so you can change the identifier also. And next thing is, when it is created, by default it will have a priority also. Priority by default it will be 5. So now just observe, here we have a method called get priority. So it returns the priority of a thread. So I told that every thread when it is created, it will have a default priority, and that priority is 5. So it will have 5 priority. So if you use this method as get priority, you will get 5. Now imagine that I want to change that priority from 5 to any other number, then you can use a method called set priority. So using set priority, you can change the priority of your thread. So instead of 5, you can change it to your required number. Now let's see the next one. I'm using the next method called get name. I told that when a thread is created, by default it will have a specific name, and that name is thread 0. Imagine that if you'll use get name, you will get that name as thread 0. Imagine that I want to change that name from thread 0 to any other specific name, then you can use a method called as set name. So set name changes the name of your thread from default name to any name that you are setting. So the new name should be this string. The new name here, you have to write it here. So this is how you set the name of your thread. Next is current thread. So current thread means if you multiple threads are executing, and if you want to know which thread is now currently running, then it's easy, just by using the method called current thread, which returns the reference of currently executing thread. Next is get id. I told that when a thread is created, by default it will be having some id, and that id is 8. So if you use get id, it returns id of a thread. By default it will be 8. Now if you want to change that id, you can use a method called as set id. So I didn't mention here, so you can use set id also. Next is thread dot state get state. So we have seen that thread can be in any of the 5 states, like new, running, runnable, terminated, likewise. So if you want to know in which state is your thread, then you can use this method called as get state. Next is alive. Boolean alive is alive. So you're checking whether your thread is still alive or not. If it is still alive, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. Means it is still executing or not. You're checking with this. Next is suspend. Suspend is used to basically stop your thread, your stop your thread from execution. So it is used to suspend the thread, which is called as deprecated. Next is resume. Resume means is, whatever the thread you have suspended earlier, you can call it to execute, and you can call it to resume back its execution. That is done using the method called as resume. And the next one is stop. You're asking the thread to stop the thread from execution. The previous one, suspend, is nothing but you're temporarily stopping its execution, whereas stop is nothing but you're completely asking it to stop the execution. So these are the most commonly used methods of thread class. So only thing we have to remember is, by default when a thread is created, it will have a default name as thread 0. It will have a default id as 8, default priority as 5. So we can change these according to our wish, based on the using some methods like get set name, set priority, set id likewise. So these are the common methods. Now let's see how these methods are applied at different states of a thread here. Now we have different states. Just now we have seen, that is new, runnable, running, terminated, and non-runnable, right? Now at these particular places, now let's see how this like what are the methods are applied at what state. Means after applying what method, you are going to which state. Let's see that. So this diagram is showing you different states of a thread, and along with the methods. Now names are bit changed, but actual names are the one which we have discussed in the previous diagram. So this is new actually. When you are in new state, it means that the thread is created but not yet started its execution. Now when you'll call this method called start, immediately it will go to the running state. Means it is ready to run, so it will go to the next one. Now here if you'll observe, running and runnable are actually coordinating with each other. So whichever is ready to run, it will be in this runnable. When the run method is called, it will go to the running state. So running means it is running, executing here. Now when it is executing here, after some period of time, it may go to it may temporarily stop, and then it is going to runnable state. So that is with the method called yield. Next is from runnable. Imagine that you are waiting for some event to happen, or you are stopped from execution. In that case, you will go to the blocked state. So you are not doing any task here. So how you will go? Based on some methods. What are those methods? Suspend. Suspend means you are temporarily stopped from execution. Then you will go here. And the next one is sleep. So if you are asked to sleep for some milliseconds, then your thread will go here, and for waiting it will go here. And when it will come back for execution means when you'll use some methods like resume, notify. If you'll use these methods, it will come back and it will be ready to execute, and then it will run. Now even in lock state, if you are asking it to permanently stop its execution, then it will go to the terminated state. And here also, when the newborn is stopped, it will go here, and when it is running, stopped means it will go to this place. So this is the life cycle of a thread, along with the methods that you'll apply for each state actually. So this is about thread life cycle and methods. Now we'll see one interface which is used in thread creation. That interface is called as runnable interface. It should be implemented by any class whose instances are intended to be executed by a thread. So if any class object is intended to execute the thread, then you have to include this runnable interface. And this runnable interface has one method. That method is called as run method. So we'll see one example of this thread. So let's see how to create the basics of thread. So any thread can be created in two ways actually. The first way is using by extending thread class. Second one is by implementing the runnable interface. While discussing about inheritance, we have seen the meaning of extending and implementing. So extending means a class is extending another class. Implementing means a class is implementing the runnable interface. So we are discussing about the our class which is creating thread. So your class can extend thread class or your class can implement runnable interface. So two ways are there. Now let's see what are these two ways. If you use thread class, it provides some constructors, methods to create and perform operations on threads. And it also extends object class and implements runnable interface. Now let's see first method, that is by extending thread class, how to create a thread. So see here, by extending the thread class, imagine your class name is multi. Now this class is extending thread class. Um, First method. Now just go to the main method here. In the main method, what are the class you have here? That is multi is my class name. For that class, I'm creating an object called T1. So then I'm asking that object to run T1 dot start. So this is actually my thread because it is extending thread class, right? So the object of this class will become a thread now. So T1 is a thread. I'm just calling T1 dot start. So I'm asking it to run it to start. So when I'll ask to start, immediately it will go to the run method. So as I told earlier, when you'll call the start method, by default it will call the run method also. So it will call the run method. Now inside the run method, I'm just printing a statement as thread is running. Okay, so I'll just repeat this. What we are doing is we are just creating a thread using extending the thread class. So in that I took a class which is extending the thread class. Now what are the class I took? For that I'm creating an object, and that object is called as a thread now. So t1 dot start I'm calling. So when t1 dot start is called in the main method, immediately run method will be called in the class, which is just printing a statement as thread is running. So your output is this. Now let's see the second example, which is actually implementing runnable interface. So it is not extending thread class, it is implementing runnable interface. Let's observe the difference here. If you use runnable interface, how the thread is created. Now same thing, I'm taking a class here and my class name is multi3, which is implementing runnable interface. So here just observe the statement. You are implementing the runnable interface. Next, in the main method, what I am doing is I'm creating the object of my class. So I'm creating the object. What is that object? M1. Now for this M1, using this M1, I'm trying to create the object for thread. So that is I'm creating the thread. So indirectly, M1 is a thread now. Sorry, T1 is a thread now. So thread T1 is equal to new thread of M1. So what is the object you have created earlier? That for that a new thread is created, and that thread is called as T1. So I'm calling it as T1 dot start, which will call the run method, with there I'm printing a statement. So if you'll just observe the difference here, in the previous one we just created the object here and we called this as a thread, whereas here we are creating an object, and for that object we are creating a thread object. So this is about this is how you'll use implementing using runnable interface. Now let's see the difference. Let's see the important point to note here. If you're not extending the thread class, your class object will not be treated as thread object. So we are not extending the thread class. That's why I've created the object for thread class. So you need to explicitly create the thread class object. We are passing the object of your class that implements runnable so that your class run method may execute. So this point we have to remember. Next is thread creation. Now we have seen two methods, right? One is using extending thread class, another one is using runnable interface. Now these two again I'll show you with another example. First is using extending the thread class here. Now in this one, let's see how I'm creating the thread. Now if you see here, what I'm doing is I'm taking a class. My class name is what here? Multi-threading demo. Multi-threading demo, which is extending thread class. So first method. So in this method, what I'm doing is just go to the main method of this one. Now here what I am doing is I'm taking a for loop. For loop is running for 8 times. So here I am creating the object for my class which extends the thread class. What is that? Multi-threading demo. So that is I have created my object and I'm calling object dot start. So this object itself is a thread. So I'm calling it to start. So this is called how many times? 8 times. Means it means that I'm creating 8 threads here. And when I'm calling start, it will go to the run method here. So in the run method, what you are doing, you are writing a try catch statement here. So it will go to the try block. There it is just printing a statement as thread dot current thread dot get id is running. So if you just observe, the one which is there in double quotes will be printed as it is thread is running, but in between you are writing get id. So which thread is running, we are printing that. So as I told, by default when a thread is created, the id will be 8. So this thread, when it is executing, the first thread will print that thread id is 8. So thread 8 is running is the first thread. So you are calling how many? 8 times. So 0 to 8, less than 8 means um, total is 8 only. So it will call from 8. Next is thread 9. Next is thread 10. All this will be printed. If an exception is there, it will be handled and it will just write exception is caught. So you'll get the output like this. So first thread is 8 because by default the ID is 8. So how many you have for loop? You have written for loop. So it will print all the 8 threads here. 3, yeah. So still 15. So this is one way. Now let's see the next one. How you are implementing the runnable interface. Now using this runnable interface, same program I'll write. Now my class name is multi-threading demo. In the main method again I'm writing for loop and I'm creating the object. Just observe here I'm not creating the object for my only I'm not creating the object for my class here. First you should create the object for this class, then you have to create the object for thread class. But those two I'm combining, I'm writing like this: thread object equal to new thread of new multi-threading demo. So this multi-threading demo is my object of my class, for which you're creating the thread object. So on the whole your object is now your thread actually. So I'm just calling it as thread object dot start, which will call the run method. From run, it will go to try block, which will execute. Thread ID is running. So what ID by default? 8 will be running. So it will be printing all these statements, same like the previous one. So the only difference we have here is the way you create the objects here. Previous one was just creating the object for your class, whereas here you're creating the object for your class, then using that object you're creating the object for your thread class. So this is how you'll use um, runnable interface for implementing the threads. So I hope everyone understood how to create the threads using two methods, that is extending the run thread class, and the other one is using the implementing the runnable interface. Now next topic we are going to discuss is about priority of a thread. So how to set the priority, what is actually priority, and so on. So now let's see what is that. So as I told in the previous case that every thread when it is created, it will be associated with some priority. So by default, the priority will be 5. Generally, the priorities are from 1 to 10. So 1 to 10, by default, you will have 5. Now out of 1 to 10, the 1 is called as minimum priority, whereas 10 is called as maximum priority, whereas 5 is called as normal priority, which is also called as default priority. Okay, so 1 is minimum, 10 is maximum, 5 is normal, which is the default also. When a thread is created, by default 5 will be there. Now based on this, three constants are defined in thread class: public static int, minimum priority, normal priority, and max priority. So you should remember these constants. Next thing is why we are actually having the priority for a thread. Why? Because if you have too many threads to actually execute, then the one which has higher priority will be executing first. So that's why priorities are given for each thread. So see the third point. The thread scheduler schedules the threads according to their priority. But it is not guaranteed because it depends on JVM specification that which scheduling it chooses. Now let's see a small program on priority of a thread. Now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to retrieve the priority of a thread based on this concept. Now let's see this. I have a class whose name is test multi priority one, which is extending thread class. So first method I'm using. Now inside that I have I have written run methods. So we'll see that later. Now let's go to the main method. In the main method, what I am doing is I'm creating two objects m1 and m2 for my class, that is test multi priority, same like our first method. So I'm creating two objects m1 and m2. Next, I'm setting the priority of these two objects. For M1, I'm writing set M1 dot set priority thread dot minimum priority. So what is the minimum priority? It is 1. So this minimum priority will be assigned to M1. Next, for M2, maximum priority I'm setting, that is 10. Now after these two priorities, I'm calling these two threads to run, that is M1 dot start, M2 dot start. When I'm calling m1 dot start, it will go to the run method. Now here in the run method, it will just print. See here, system dot out dot println running thread name is. What is the thread name? By default, the thread name is, as I told, when it is created, it will be thread 0. And the thread priority is what? Thread priority is minimum. So if m1 is creating, m1 is running, its priority will be minimum, that is 1. Now if the second thread is running, it will go here. Now this is the second thread, right? Then its name will be thread 1. The previous one name is thread 0, now thread 1, and its priority is maximum, that is 10. So this is how your output will look like. First thread name is thread 0 and its priority is minimum, that's why it is 1. Second thread name is thread 1 and its priority is 10. Likewise, so this is how you'll use the you can get the priority of any thread. Imagine that if you want to change the name of any priority, then in that case you can use a method called as set priority. If you want to say change the priority, like we have seen here, set priority here. So instead of minimum and maximum, you can change it to any other thing. Okay, so in this session, we have discussed what is a thread, we have seen what is multitasking, and we have seen what is multi-threading and multi-processing, and we compared both of them. We have observed that multi-threading is better option when compared to multi-processing. Then we have seen how to create a thread using two methods. One is extending class, another one is implementing runnable interface, and at the end, we have seen priority of a thread concept. So I hope everyone understood these concepts in this session. Thank you all.